guys, this is going to be a demo on how to do these pastel portraits, okay? We're going to do them in color, and some of you guys have probably done skin tones in color. It can be a little tricky, and that's one of those things that people really struggle with when they're painting people. So I'm going to do the best I can today to give you some tips and pointers on that. All right, so we are going to be working with these, okay? These are soft pastels. Many people call these chalk pastels, okay? The real professional word is soft pastel, but you can call them chalk pastels as opposed to like an oil pastel, which most of you guys have probably used throughout your art times in elementary and middle school. These are very different. They're more like a charcoal kind of a product than like an oil pastel. I love these so much more than I don't like oil pastels, honestly. I don't like working with them at all. Only thing people don't like about these usually is they're very messy. They get on your hands, and if you're one of those people that doesn't like stuff on your hands, it will make you a little OCD crazy, but and I'm that way. It makes me a little crazy. I always work with a wet paper towel so I can kind of clean my hands off, because you will get it all over you. So that's my tip, is have a paper towel with has a little bit of wet spot and a little bit of dry spot so you can dry your hands off. All right, so these pastels, I've got a bunch of new sets of these. If you get a new set, I'm okay if you break these pastels in half. I like working with a smaller piece. You don't have to, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at this gal's skin and I'm gonna pull out some colors that I think are gonna work. Now I have several different kinds of these pastels. This is specifically a portrait set, and it's got colors in it that are very good for working with skin. So I think y'all will enjoy that. When I first started teaching this lesson, I had just a general set, and it was a lot harder to get the correct skin tones with the set I had. I still have some of those because they've got some really great colors in them for, like, if you want to do a really cool background. But these are going to be great for skin. So while you're looking at your little child, you might want to like take these out and go, okay, I see an area in that face that has that color, and just go in and break them up. I don't see too much with that color. Definitely, I see this color. Is there a rat in here? Rattling paper? What is that? It sounds like somebody eating food. And that is why I have ants. All right. This is one of my favorite colors here for shading. I call that color raisin. I don't know why. I don't know what color to call it. It's a weird color, but it's real good for getting your darks into the skin. It's this one right here. And there will be some occasion to use a dark brown maybe if you're trying to get a really dark shadow. Don't use a black in the shadows, okay? When you use those blacks, it really starts to kind of deaden the skin. It makes it not look like vibrant and pretty. So you want to kind of avoid using blacks. And as an artist, I rarely ever use black unless I'm doing pupils or something like that. Whoever's eating something, stop. Really. Thank you. I think that's what I'm going to start with. So I pull these off to the side just so I've got my kind of palette here, what I'm going to work with. So the paper you're going to be using is in this pad. Most of y'all got that yesterday to draw your orphans off. So I'm starting with my line drawing. As I said, I pushed her to the bottom. I decided that I'm going to do her shirt solid. I'm not going to do these stripes just because I just didn't want to, but that is your call. This little gal says she likes purple, so I will probably incorporate some purple in the background. I hate just a completely solid background. I think that's very boring, and I want y'all to make these a little more interesting. If you want to do something creative with it, please by all means do, but I would like to see you use 2 to 3 colors in the background just to make it pretty and make it interesting. So that's, yeah. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start out with my lightest color. And I'm going to look at my picture, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to put this color down everywhere where I see very light color. Now I use kind of the corner of this so I can kind of, I don't know, just the way I do it. So I'm going to put a whole bunch of color down, and it's going to start looking really weird in a few minutes, and you're going to go, oh my gosh, what is Ms. Anderson doing? How's that ever going to look like anything? But then the magic happens. Now, what I want to tell you is that you have got to put this pastel down thick. I think I told y'all yesterday, there's a textured side and a less textured side. I didn't realize that when I started drawing this, and I did it on the textured side, which is fine, but had I paid attention, I would have done it on the smoother side, just because I'm gonna have a lot of texture that, if you want the texture to show, it's fine. I don't like texture to show in my portraits. Some people do. So I'm gonna make sure I blend the pastel so that it doesn't show. All right, you're gonna have excess pastel on your paper. Do not blow this, okay? It gets all over the place, gets all over the tables, and it gets all over you and your clothes and your neighbor. And some people in here have possibly asthma or other breathing problems. That stuff gets all in the air and people breathe it in. It's really unhealthy. So just do it on the floor. I hate that. Our floors get slick and colored, but that's the best thing I know to do with it. And they do sweep my floor, are supposed to sweep my floor every night. Don't know that always happens, but. All right, so this is my first color. Now I'm gonna go to my next darkest color, which is gonna be this kind of gold yellow. I'm gonna go in and put some of this in. I have not heard y'all this quiet in a long time. Thank you. All right, now I'm going to go after this kind of peachy color. Now, I haven't done this in a year. I'm a little rusty. It's like I do this every year as a demo, and then I don't come back to pastels for about another year. Well, I did do pastels, one portrait this year that was not really successful. I think some of you are really going to like this medium and you're going to want to do more of it, I hope. I'll tell you what's nice about this is that you can combine this pastel with other mediums. For instance, watercolor and pastel work really well together. So say you wanted to do a big portrait, but you didn't want to do the background maybe in pastel. Maybe you did the background in watercolor, and then you did the pastel on top of it. Or maybe you did the first layer, like the light colors of the skin, maybe you did that in watercolor, and then you started working the pastel on top of that. It's a really, really nice thing to combine, but it also is beautiful when you don't combine it. And I'll tell you what I like about this. In the right hands, somebody that really knows what they're doing, you do one of these, they call them paintings. People that do this professionally, they call these pastel drawings paintings. I think of them more as a drawing. But when they're finished with them, they really do look like oil paintings. If you look back there, you see that painting with a mother and child by Mary Cassatt? That is actually a pastel drawing, or a pastel painting as they call it. Don't y'all think that looks like an oil painting? Mm-hmm. So, this looks pretty cool. All right, she's a little warm down here, so I'm gonna add a little of this peachy stuff here. Back to this here. Now I've got to put some color in here for her socket area, for her eye sockets. Don't forget to shade the things that are dark. Eye sockets, bridge of the nose, under the nose here, the Cupid's bow. Some shading right here with this plane. Remember where your planes change, that's where you need to put your shading in. Somebody get that? All right, so I'm putting this down really heavy, putting a lot of pastel down. If you don't put enough pastel down, then it's going to not blend well. Okay, so if I impress anything on you, put a lot of pastel down. When you start blending, you'll see what I'm talking about. Sorry, can I move your stuff?
That's fine. Go back to some way.
You're all right. was about to decide she didn't let you out.
No, I was talking to a junior about taking AP.
Oh, good.
Passing the hall.
Good.
What?
Did you say good things?
Yes. It's funny because she's kind of intimidated by me.
By me?
Yeah, I know. It's like
I'm so intimidating, right?
yeah, she's
She must have never had me before.
Mm-mm.
That's funny. Huh?
Can I work right here?
No, because I gotta see you.
Okay. All right.
You can go over there.
I'll figure it out. I'll sell
Okay.
it. It's fine.
You're like a mom.
All right. Lots of pastel on the floor. All right, y'all see how it's looking kind of weird,
You're like a zone.
right? But you kind of see the face emerging. You see the lights and darks. So this is what it's going to look like for a bit. And
Right.
now I'm going to come in here and start adding some darks. Hello. Who are you looking for today? David and Caleb. What have y'all done now? Oh, you know, okay, let me tell y'all something. I always forget the ear. Why? I don't know. It's some mental block. Don't forget the ear. The ear has to be the same color as the face, and as long as you've got these colors out, you might as well get the ear. And I did my normal did the ear thing. So I'm going to go in and add my color for my ear. Ears, generally, hers isn't this way, but a lot of times, especially if you got somebody with lighter skin, the ear's going to be really pink. Hers are about the same color as the rest of her face, so. But just note that if you're doing somebody really light skinned, that their ears oftentimes look almost red. Bless you. A little bit of a peachy color in her mouth. I will work work with her mouth, on her mouth a lot more later. All right, so as I get around these eyes, the eyelid itself, even if it's folded up, you're going to have a little bit of more of a light thing going on there. And on this side, it's going to be a little bit lighter right as it touches the eye. But then you've got that crease to deal with. And I think I'm going to hold off and do that. I'll put a little bit in here. I'm going to go back in and refine a lot of this with charcoal pencils. Like tighten stuff up. And I'm going to show you some tools that I have for you guys that'll help you tighten stuff up too. And get in close to stuff. All right, so, all right, let me show you where I am now. Looking a little more human now, right? Still weird though. So I'm going to go in now with my lightest color, and I'm going to put more of this down, and I'm going to kind of color into some of this darker stuff that I've got down, and it will automatically start to blend some of this for me. kind of cool. Some people just work like this and they never blend it with their fingers. I like a real smooth blend, so I blend it with my fingers. But I have done portraits where I haven't done that and I've just used like a lighter color to kind of pull it all together. So there's different ways to work with this. Dirty. Shouldn't put that there. Okay, I'm about to do the magic. See how long it's taken me to put pastel down? Do not try to do this fast. You won't get enough down and it won't blend well, okay? It takes a minute. All right, think I've got enough down here. Make sure your hands are clean. I'm gonna go in and I start with the light area with my blending. You don't wanna start with the dark because when you pull it into the light, it contaminates it. Hannah, why are you not watching this? You might actually learn something. All right, you see how that texture wants to show through? I'm okay with it showing through a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna try to not smudge into the chin. I'm gonna try to just stay on this side of it. I can go back in and clean it up a little bit later, but I try to keep my edges clean and crisp. All right, you see how that neck is starting to blend out? I'm gonna do the same thing with the face. Now, I have to go clean my hands because I just got them into the dark area. So I'm gonna get that off. And sometimes I'll use my pinky if I need to get into a different area. I'll start with my light area and go blend that in. And then I will come in here. And ladies, it's very similar to putting on makeup. And you gotta blend it out, you know? You don't wanna walk in with big weird streaks if you can help it. And I clean my hands as I move into a different area because I don't want to contaminate my darks with all the lights. Now I'm gonna get right up to this edge, but I'm not gonna completely blend it. I'm gonna go back in with a tool and I'm gonna smooth that out a little bit more. Kinda hate to do a demo on a Friday because y'all won't get started on this till Monday. Do you think y'all gonna remember this?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm basically just kind of pulling these edges together, you know, and making the transition smooth. And y'all have done some of this with pencil, so now it's just a matter of making the color work together. And if you'll notice, there is not one speck of black in this face to make things dark. It's all done with color. So please, I don't want to walk over and see you shading everything with black, okay? That is not the way skin looks. I don't put black in darker skin either. I use blues and purples in skin tones. And that's what most artists do. Okay, so now I gotta get my pinky and go in here and get some of this. And because I kind of know what I'm doing, I can do this pretty quick. It may take you a minute longer than it's taken me, because for some of y'all this will be a new process. So if you're a little slower at it, it is okay. But I think it's good to see how quick it can be done once you've done a few of these. Okay, see how it's kind of looking a little bit more like it should? All right, I'm gonna get my okay, so I've got these tools that I'm gonna put a couple sets of these at each of your tables. There should be 10 in your bucket when y'all leave, and I'm gonna assign a desk monitor to make sure the 10 are still there. For some reason, people like to hoard these and hide these, okay? This is a $20 set of tools, okay? I can't afford to keep buying them, all right? I bought a whole bunch, but they're pricey, and so I do not need you walking out with these or hiding them, so I'm gonna have somebody in charge of each table every day to make sure all 10 get put back in the bucket, okay? So, because my fingers are big, relatively big, I can use this tool to substitute for my fingers. This is a flatter tool here, and just go in and blend. These are rubber tip tools. Now they will sometimes lift up some of my blending, some of my pastel. But if I have enough pastel down, they usually do a pretty good job. So there's that. I can go along my edge of the chin. You want to wipe it off every time you use it, so you don't contaminate the color over here. So I can come in here and do this crisp edge and get that blended really nicely. So these tools I don't even pick up until I'm ready to really tighten it down, because my fingers are my best tools before that. Now if you start to blend and your colors just won't blend, stop what you're doing and go back and add more pastel down. Mine blended together pretty well because I had a lot of pigment down on my paper. But if you don't, you're going to have some trouble, and you're going to go, I just don't know why it's not working. Well, that's why. If you want to, with your eyebrows, kind of put a little bit of shading in the eyebrows. That way when you go in to add the eyebrows, there's a little bit of color under them, because sometimes what'll happen is if you don't do that, you'll have a lot of just really white that will show through the eyebrows, which is weird. If you get fingerprints, kneaded eraser will lift most things. You can clean stuff up. You're going to be doing a background, so it's not a big deal. I've got a couple different kinds of these tools. This is more of a chisel tip. This is a chisel tip. These will do the same thing I was just doing here. These two will get into really tight places. I like these a lot for if I want to get in and really create some lines, like I would like to blend that line out without smudging everything else. Now I've also got other tools. These, like I say, tend to lift some of the pigment up with the pastels. These are really good too. If you don't want to lift stuff and you just want to smudge stuff, this might even be a better option. I've got plenty of these as well that I'll make sure y'all have access to. Okay, so here's where I am. I haven't done anything to the ear yet. I haven't done anything to the mouth yet. I'm going to go in and work the nose a little bit, kind of draw that a little bit better with this tool. Now, I'm going to be adding, I'm just getting started. This is my first layer. I'm going to keep adding pastel to it, but I do want to show you this. You're going to want a piece of popping paper to protect your drawing at some point, okay? So I usually just fold it in half because this stuff is really, really smudgy. And I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to kind of define the nose a little bit and put some nostrils in there. Of course, the tip's going to break. If you sharpen charcoal pencils. This is one specifically designed for, oh, it's not plugged in, for colored pencils. It is plugged in. And it should do pretty good on charcoal. Charcoal's real soft. If you start putting the charcoal in those sharpeners, it's going to break off in there and mess them up. So if you need to sharpen one of these, use this little sharpener over here, okay? It's my new little handy dandy gadget that's working real well for stuff. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit of this black in. I don't want to outline her face in any way with this. I'm going to go back in and smudge this and blend it back into what is already there. I probably shouldn't have put that right here in this spot. That should have probably been a different color. I'm going to have to go back in and soften that out because that's too strong. But what that black does, it is a good thing to use for the really dark areas of the face, the nostrils and that type of thing. Now I'm going to go into the mouth, and I'm going to create the aperture line with the mouth. And this gal's got a little bit of a pouty face, so I want to make sure I capture that. I'm going to go in and blend these lips just a little bit. I'll go back in and work on those lips a lot more. All right, I'm going to go in with this, this raisin color, and tone that down that I just did there on that black. I don't like the way that looks. So pastels are very forgiving. With the right paper, you can continue to layer stuff up on these pastels, cover stuff up to an extent. At some point, the texture, which is called the tooth of your paper, kind of fills up, and then it won't accept stuff anymore. There are things out there called workable fixatives that will give you the ability to kind of go back in and work back into it. I don't really like the workable fixative, but a lot of people do. I think it kind of messes up your painting, but okay. So I mainly want to show y'all kind of how to start this off. What time is it? You know what, I'm going to keep going because I don't think y'all have time to work on anything anyway, so I'm going to keep working on this, and y'all can see me get pretty far along with this. How about I go in and work some eyes a little bit? Oh, I'll show you an eyebrow. So if I were going to do an eyebrow here, I would probably go in and I would put down this dark brown, just to put a little base color down, just kind of in the center. And then go in and smudge it a little bit. Just to kind of put some color down. You know, you don't want to make these eyebrows so black. Most people don't have the thickest eyebrows. Some people do. Kind of depends on what you're doing. And I just blew that. Don't do that. I'm going to go in now and just kind of go in with this pencil and kind of add some little hairs. And remember, eyebrows kind of grow on a diagonal oblique till they get to their peak, and then they turn and they grow back down. Now, this little eyebrow I'm doing is way darker than it should be for her, so I'm gonna have to figure out something about that. But that's kind of, you know, you stick it in there, and then if you put a little bit of that skin tone down, you don't have a lot of white showing through when you do that. I think I'm gonna go in with this gray. No, not gray. I'm going with this light brown and soften it a little bit, because that's just too dark. And then I'm going to go in with my little tool, kind of blend it out a little bit. That'll help to soften it. And I think I might have her eyebrow arched a little bit more than it should be, so I'll go in and fix that too. You know, you want to create a likeness, and eyebrows are real important to that. If you make the eyebrow not look like her eyebrow, it's not going to look like her so much. Go back in and change that shape, chop that down a little bit. See how I just colored right over that? And then I'm just going to blend that edge in a little bit. Incidentally, right above the eyebrows, usually people have or catch a little bit of light on their face above the eyebrows, so you want to pay attention to that. I'm going to go in now and I'm going to model out this nose a little bit. All right, remember, when you're shading a nose, you shade it like if there's a sphere on the tip of the nose, okay? So I'm going to do the outside area of the sphere a little bit darker. And then the wings of the nose, this part right here, you're also going to shade these like half a sphere. So I'm going to put a little shading on the edges here. And then I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to go in and kind of blend this out. Start in the middle and go to the edges so you don't contaminate the light area. And then I'm going to have to go in with this because it's too tight for my fingers. Back in and add a little more dark into the bridge of the nose so that it looks more three-dimensional. Don't be afraid to model out your darks. It's important. Let me do an eye for you. I'm not going to do the black for a minute. So, think about eyes. We know that we call these the whites of the eye, but sometimes they're more cream colored than they are white. So I'm going to put down a base of this cream color in the corners. And then I'm going to come in with a white. And I'm going to put the white just right next to where the pupil goes to create a lot of contrast there, okay? And then I'm going to go in with my little blending tool and blend those two together. You really want a clean tool if you're blending the white. Contaminated, even though I've but I can go back on top of it with more white. Now I'm going to go, I've got white charcoal pencils. I'm going to go in and kind of get a little closer to this white. I'm going to go into the tear duct with the dark, this raisiny color, and put it right here. And then I'm going to go in with a little of this peachy color. And then I'm going to blend it out. Now, if you get into these and you really like them, they have whole sets of colored pastel pencils. I have a small set behind my desk, but I'm going to do this without using it because I want you to see that it can be done without using those. But if you get into it and really like it, it's worth the investment to get a small set of those so you can get in and get these tight details. All right, so now I'm going to pick up my black, and I'm going to go and I'm going to create this lash line. And this is one of the darker areas of the face. There's the lash line and the cast shadow created by the lash line, okay? And then I'm going to go in. She's got really dark brown eyes, so I'm going to go in and create the outside rim with this black, okay? And then I'm going to fill in with the dark brown. Got a really dark brown here. And I'm going to put this in the entire eye. And I'll go back in and add the pupil inside of that. smudge this all the way to the edge of this rim. Now when you start getting into the eyes, you don't want to be smudging this dark all into the whites because then it's real hard to deal with. And then I'm going to come back and add the pupil. Now remember, pupils are in the center. Down too hard. Pupils are in the center of the iris, and if the iris is under the lid a little bit, that means that pupil's probably going to touch the top of that lid. And then I'm going to come in and really, really lightly do a little bit of a dark under that lid right there. And blend that out. Now we're getting restless. Am I running out of time? We have 10 minutes. Y'all sit tight. 2 minutes. Never mind. All right. Thank you guys for behaving so well. All right. If you have an orphan, put them back here in this.
And I didn't get to use this though.
Okay. You get it next time. Oh, yeah. Hey, you guys, I'm going to take your pencil orphans now. Put them right here for me, okay? I need to get a grade in the book.
Oh no.
Hey, my hands are dirty.
If I look horrible or something, it's because Katie messed it up.
It's because who?
Katie messed it
Katie Dora?
up. Remember that time we were in strike? She was trying to help me, but it didn't turn out
Didn't
right.
help?
Yeah.
What's she trying to help me with?
Well, look this up because she was like doing like, I don't know what she was doing.
All right.
So that's her right there.